Boys and girls, Doug as it gets, I have a very special thing for you guys today. Today we're going to talk about Ibushi, Narwa, and the AllMother. Now, these three monsters, I kind of feel I should just do in one big video. I really thought about it, but honestly, I'm a man of theatrics, and theatrics state that, well, my level of theatrics, if you can't kill that monster, you can't make a video with that particular piece of content. So what I decided to do was make a video with all three, with the ending of the video being the AllMother, wherein which Ibushi is clearly killed, spoilers, and then you yourself get to kill Narwa, who turns into the AllMother, so like they're all three dead. So we're gonna cover all three in one sitting, simply because I need the theatrics in my life. So how it's really gonna go is I'm going to cover each one individually as you see first, but it's going to be relatively brief, and I'll accumulate everything when we fight the AllMother. I'll talk about essentially what both bring to the table when fighting it, simply because, well, honestly, for Ibushi, yeah, for Ibushi, you don't really have a whole lot of time fighting him. You do fight him in a rampage, and then you fight him a little bit when you fight the AllMother. But honestly, truth be told, dead seriously? You don't really fight much of him. From the gameplay I've been able to like come around and get, it's not necessarily enough time to kill any real monsters, any real measure of health. Like I have a 6-minute clip and like another 4.5-minute clip. It's really weird. I don't know why. They never let you full on kill the thing. He just runs away. Nevertheless, so what we're gonna get into is starting with Ibushi, move to Narwa, and then AllMother. And I'm going to try and do this as quick as I can because it's going to be 3 monsters for one video. I don't want this to be a 35-minute video. I wanted to keep it right around 20 minutes. So when we talk about the gear, weapons, and such, I'm going to talk about all of them together, like at the end, because we're going to talk about all the monsters and all the monster things you need to know, and then wrap it up with the gear, then do the final overlook as always. But we're going to cover everything for all 3 monsters first, weapons and gear in the middle, and then wrap it in the end. Why did I have to put this entire massive, I guess, disclaimer in the front? Don't know. I'm a man theatrics. With that being said, let's go.
I've never seen that one before.
Where is my queen? Where is my queen? I am Storm incarnate. I shall wipe the land clean. So we may meet at last in paradise unseen.
So here we are, Ibushi. Ibushi is a particular monster who is one half of the whole thing that we're talking about. It's Ibushi, Narwa, and then AllMother. But Ibushi, the first time you fight him in a rampage. So I'm not gonna show you the entire rampage, just the part where you actually get to fight him. So as you would, regular rampage, get to Ibushi, time to fight. You can use your standard sweetie cannons and machine guns and whatever to actually attack him. Honestly, I would recommend doing this. He's going to completely break down the first gate anyway, so the real fight is going to happen in the second area. Just hit him with everything you got, you know what I mean? Just smack the heck out of him with everything you have. Now, let's say you're not fighting him in the rampage, you're fighting him in the other fight. You're going to want to use your weapons, obviously. And when you do use your weapons, I recommend using anything with any kind of dragon element to it. Dragon is his main weakness, and if you're going to do the most damage to him, you have to hit him on those sacks. He has a wind sack, that's what it's called, a wind sack on his chest and his arms. And I think that's it. Oh, his tail. and his tail. But you'll know what it is. The wind sack is where you can do the most damage. They kind of bloat up so that way he can actually fly, if I'm not mistaken. So just attack these things, you're going to be in relatively good hands. He himself has an amazing attacks, but in the Rampage, you don't really have to worry about him too much because he's not going to get a chance to do all of them or even utilize them to their fullest potential. But he's going to float around all lavishly and floatfully and whatnot, and then you can do as much damage to him as you totally can. Now, again, like I said, you want to hit him in the sacks. That's going to be his primary weakness, but he's going to have those things guarded for the most part. He's a literal upside down dragon. He's not going to be on the ground long enough for you to actually do any damage to him. He protects himself by when he gets close to you, him being upside down, his weak spots are actually still hidden because they're just slightly higher than what they would normally be for any other weapon. Now, if you're an insect glaive user or a gunner, you might be doing the best number here when it comes to damaging these hard to hit spots. But granted, if you do damage these spots hard enough, he will normally fall over. He'll topple over quite readily if you get him to do so. But as I said, this is just a Rampage. It's really not like hard to win this fight. He hits pretty difficult. He hits difficult. Wow, he hits hard. Okay, the monster himself hits hard, but you really should just watch out everything he can do. What he can do is he can shoot these wind dragon element balls at you. They kind of hurt a bit, but they are dragon element. All right, have to watch out for those. He can swirl his body around and just kind of throw himself at you. In the Rampage, he doesn't really utilize all of his attacks, just things you would kind of see, oh yeah, I guess I can see him doing that. So outside of the wind attack and him kind of floating around being all ominous and whatnot, he doesn't really have much else to offer. Hit him with, again, everything I said. In the Rampage, the guns, the super slug shell thing, I forget what it's called. I think the worm shot. Hit him with that. Hit him with the Fugan. Hit him with the girl with the dangos. You know what I'm talking about. Just use all of those, like all your tools that you have at your disposal. Use it on him. It's not a really tough fight. You can just get it done. But since that's not the tough fight, not the real fight, let's actually move directly over to the true fight. Well, as true as it gets for Ibushi. Now that we're fighting the AllMother, we actually get to fight Ibushi in his true form. So now we're going to see him actually throw some stuff around. So to get to this point, you must first have already fought Narwa. But if you did, you kind of know what's going to be happening. He's going to cause some platforms to pop up and going to allow you to actually use ballista and machine guns to actually smack him. Now, a lot of the things that I said before still hold true. He does have a couple more attacks that's open to him because he's now in his actual element. He will utilize him being able to lift up these platforms out the ground, and now that lifts it out the ground, you can actually get yourself in a more advantageous position to hit the soft spots on his body. There's a couple of situations where he'll put himself in a very weird precarious position where he himself will kind of like throw his arms up on top of this elevated platform, leaving his tail exposed with the sack at the bottom. Now, you can hit him in the head when he does this, or you can just hit the sack at the bottom. Granted, if he's doing this, he probably already has wind guys all around him and everything. That's the thing he tends to do. He tends to throw down these wind guys that really disrupt, if anything more often than not, you from doing the real damage to him. But truth be told, Ibushi isn't an actual serious fight. Even when you get him into this particular form, you're only going to fight about maybe 3 minutes. As always, hit him with whatever the ballista or the gun that he gives you, and hit those soft spots in his chest, his arms, his back, whatever. The parts with the sacks, you see these things. They're glowing. They're the glowing spots on his body if you don't know. Hit him with that. Well, hit him with anything you have in those spots. Usually if you're going to use your weapon, you really want to come in with some dragon element. And after that, he's just going to die. Honestly, he's straight up just gonna die. And then the real stuff happens with Narwa. But before we get to that, we need to talk about Narwa herself and then come back over to actually circumvent everything that comes into the end of this battle, i.e. AllMother.
My king, oh my king, come forth now with haste. With my elegant lightning, let us lay this land to waste. Tear apart the skies, rend the clouds asunder. Pave the road to paradise with hurricane and thunder.
Yeah, my king, my queen, blah, 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 whatever. Okay, so now we are at Narwa. Narwa is the different one, the one that's an actual fight. Whereas Ibushi, you play fought with him a little bit, kind of slap hands a little. He did a couple of cool things. He lifted some platforms. You get to shoot him with some ballistas, some machine gun, whatever. You get to fight him in the rampage a little bit. There was other monsters in there, and it was kind of cool. It was interesting. He had a couple attacks. He threw some wind balls of dragon element at you. He spun at you a couple of times. He did some stuff. Ibushi was not an actual fight. I don't really feel as if, even if you've never seen the monster before, you shouldn't really be in too much danger because he himself is not that difficult. However, much like in nature, the female of any particular species is the more dangerous one, even in humans and so on. You ever piss off your mom, see what happens. Anyway, so now we are with Narwa. Narwa is the different one. Narwa has a plethora of attacks. So many attacks, I'm literally just gonna name off a couple of them, and there's like 10 or 12 variations of each. So Narwa has the ability to project electricity like crazy. That is her main thing. That big thing on her stomach is her thunder sack. So for those of you who are thinking it's like eggs or whatever, which I thought it was eggs at first, it's her thunder sack. And for those with a good eye for danger, yes, you should probably hit that because, I don't know, it's big and it's glowing and it does a lot of damage to it if you really actually hit it. A really, really large amount of damage, actually. You're gonna want to hit it with dragon element though. Same as Ibushi, bring the dragon. I forget what the other weakness was. I think it's ice, actually. But bring dragon. You're going to do the most elemental damage there. And if anything, if you want to be real slick with it, if you magically decide to make an Ibushi weapon, even though we haven't talked about the weapons armor yet, if you did, you can use that weapon to actually fight it because Ibushi has dragon element weapons. Mind you, they have actually little to no element on it, but that's neither here nor there. But what is here is when you do want to do the big number damage to it, hit it in this little stomach thing. There's a lot of situations where if you stun the monster, knock it down, topple it, break apart, so on and etc., it'll expose its stomach to you so that way you can hit it. When it falls on the ground, a little platform will pop up for you to walk on to poke it even better with. Now, the elephant in the room, the thing you've seen 10 or 20 times already that I've not spoken about at all, was the yellow donuts. Yes, this thing shoots yellow donuts. That's what we're going to call them. Now, it does yellow donuts in a multitude of fashions. It can shoot it from its hands. It can shoot it from its mouth. It'll emit them from its body when it does a little corkscrew spin. It'll emit them from its whole body in like sections of 4 really tight 4-section rings. Drop them on the ground. You'll see. You're gonna see a lot of these gold donuts. My best bet, well, my word of advice for you, just don't get hit. They're huge rings, okay? You can just, I don't know, thread the needle and not get hit by these things. You will almost never get hit with them naturally. You'll probably get hit with them whenever you're trying to utilize the ballista and the machine guns that it gives you, because just like Ibushi, it also gives you ballista machine guns to shoot it with in its abdomen, because when it usually gives them to you, it shoots out a whole spur of electrical things. It'll shoot out the rings and on a really low level, a mid-level where the ballista and everything are, and then sometimes at a higher level way above your head. I don't know why it is, I guess just for dramatic effect. It also shoots pillars of electricity as well, so you probably should watch out for that, because more often than not, the pillars of electricity are what get you. Now, after that, it does have a beam. This beam, well, it has, first let's talk about the breath attacks. It has 3, I think. 3, it has 3 breath attacks. My word, this monster has some attacks, like seriously. So you have the beam. The beam is incredibly powerful. You don't really want to get caught with this thing because it shoots a huge beam that the hitbox is like twice as wide as anything else we've ever seen, and it sweeps from the ground outwards. So you can probably not get hit by it, but what lays in wake of the beam is explosive thunder, electric explosions, I guess. It's kind of hard to really like tell, but you'll see it when he hits it, because as the beam comes out, balls of electricity or explosions of electricity underneath the beam take place. So if it doesn't hit you in the air, you have to watch out for the ground. So that entire segment from ground all the way to the tip of the actual beam is a massive hitbox that you do not want to touch or tangle with. So just sidestep it. Now the other breath attack it has is this giant ball of electrical energy. It's just a giant ball. It'll shoot it, not too often, but it will shoot it. It'll shoot it by itself. It'll shoot some donuts and shoot it through the donuts. It'll shoot it, well, I'm thinking of another attack that it does when it's in AllMother form. But you're gonna see a couple of times where it shoots this giant circle, like it's a sphere, if you will, because we got a bunch of circles. Them donuts, oh boy. But it shoots a sphere at you, and it does a number of, you know, things like hurting pretty hard. And last but not least, it has what I'm lovingly referred to as the shower head. Now the shower head, it shoots like, I think like 5 beams of electricity from its mouth in a fan motion and kind of spins it. It'll do that from its mouth in a fan motion and swing it up at you. And also later in the fight, as you progress through the fight, like the second phase view of the fight later in, closer to death if you will, it'll fly in the air and do what literally made me give it the name the shower faucet, where it just shoots those beams of electricity down at you and then rotate in and out. By in and out, I mean it'll go outwards, it'll fan out, and then it'll fan back in and rotate at the same time. There's a segment where I do some very fancy footwork and don't get hit by any of it, but it's pretty hard to do. So that's its breath attacks. And we're not even done yet. My word, this monster has a bunch of attacks. Ugh. Outside of the breath, the donuts, and the raising up the pillars and everything, it has what I can know often, well, no skin off my back, no hair, no water, no whatever. It has a stupid attack where it funnels itself into like a huge like aura of electricity and then kind of explodes. Okay, it's kind of wild. It's something it does in the latter end of the fight, but more often than not, you're not really gonna get hit by it. You'll see what I'm talking about. It's just kind of hard to explain. It really does it a lot when it's just by itself. It usually doesn't raise any platforms to do it, but it just kind of sits there on the ground, like it's gonna do a push-up on the ground, and then it'll just like shoot out a huge burst of electricity. Donuts will come out of this. Sometimes it'll shoot that electrical sphere from this, and it'll definitely have the pillars of electricity when it does it as well. So outside of like all those attacks, I'm sure I'm missing one or two, but that's just the attacks that Narwa can do. Whew. Okay. With that said, what do you do about these attacks? You just don't get hit by them. There's not much else for me to say. Every single one of its attacks is a danger. You just don't want to get hit by it. It has a couple of attacks that are just relative glancing blows that you don't really want to, you know, that you would rather get hit by versus all the other things I talked about. But at the end of the day, if you get hit with any of these thunder attacks, it'll do about 50 to 60% of your health easily, if not more in certain cases, depending on what armor and your resistances are. So you just want to make sure you don't get hit by anything that has electrical. Its tail, watch out for its tail slam too. Like there's weird instances where it'll set up a platform and then it'll break the platform and then it'll swing its tail and smack you with it. You'll see, it's kind of like a smackdown tail attack. This monster has a ton of attacks, guys. There's just so many of them, but you just don't want to get hit with any of them. Do any amount of damage you can to any of its sacks that's available to you. The glowy, lighty, uppy bits on its body, the big sack on its stomach, and the things on its fins, you're going to want to attack those primarily. Use the ballista, use the guns, use your own weapons in certain circumstances. Get as many knockdowns as you possibly can. The knockdowns was 100% emphatically going to save you. If you get knockdowns when it's doing any of its magical stuff in the air, it's going to stop doing those magical things in the air, and you're going to be able to hit it in its stomach, because when it hits the ground, it raises that little platform up so that allows you to actually do the damage to its like sack thing. So that's just the play of the game. Do as much damage as you can, avoid getting hit by anything, and damage it as much as possible when it's in the air. You seriously want to do that. Do all that you can to do so. But afterwards, you're gonna deep six this thing, quote unquote deep six. And then after, you're gonna fight AllMother. AllMother is the culmination of both Narwa and Ibushi. So truth be told, the AllMother fight, if anything, it's a lot harder because it just hits a lot harder. Basically every single thing, literally every single thing I said about Narwa, AllMother has, plus more, and a few things that Ibushi has. But with that said, let's go take a look at AllMother, because when you do quote unquote fight and beat this monster, it just falls into a hole and then you get to fight it again.
Divine beasts with grace replete, finally the twain shall meet. My queen, smite the earth with your thunder. My king, let storm tear the clouds asunder. With lightning and hurricane. We sear and slice. For we are the architects of true paradise. Let us form our final bond to rule the world and all beyond.
Last but not least, we have AllMother. Now, AllMother is basically Narwa who eats Ibushi or something, takes his life force, whatever you want to call it. They fusion Ha together. One dies, one keeps going, and essentially all AllMother is just a Narwa juiced up. It's like hardcore Narwa. It's literally like Narwa, but like G rank. Honestly, like it's so weird. It's the end game dragon, the end game monster. But for the most part, it just feels like the monster we literally kind of just fought with a couple more things tattooed to it, which is fine, which is totally fine. Nothing really wrong with that. However, let's talk about it. But first, before we get to that, let's get to the things that I should clarify. Off the rip, off the cuff, everything that I said about Narwa, all of Narwa's attacks, literally transition, all of them. Now, it has a couple of things that it took from Ibushi as well, being that it can actually produce these wind geysers on the ground, and it'll do this whenever it brings up platforms with ballista and so on for you to like stand and shoot on. Now, one thing to note is that it doesn't bring up as many ballista and so on as it used to. So for those of us who become accustomed to using the ballista, you can still use it, don't get it wrong, you can still use it. There's still going to be plenty of opportunity, but it just doesn't bring it up as often. If anything, it forces you to actually fight the monster more so on the ground, and its attack patterns change, that way you have more instances where you can actually hit it in its thunder sacks, which is still the main weak spot to this monster. The elemental resistances and the damage indicators are essentially all the same. Hit it in the sacks, you're doing big number, wear that dragon weapon and you're good. So it's gonna be okay to transfer over and those things. So if you made it this far, continue using what you were doing. Those tactics are going to necessarily work. Now, it does have all the same attacks it had before, but they've been turned up a little bit. A lot of them are a little speedier. There's a number of different paths to it. So for instance, one I can think off the top of my head is, do you remember the shower faucet? I almost forgot my own nickname for it. The shower faucet attack, but the fanning shower faucet attack, it'll do it twice now instead of just once. So things like that, it just augmented a couple of things. And of course, the things to take from Ibushi is the air geysers and the occasional dragon wind pushy thing, whatever. There's still plenty of donuts and so on. So for the most part, that's what you can get out of Ibushi. AllMother, that was a carryover. Other than that, it has a lot more health. It has a ton more health, and it has a couple of new attacks. Now, the first new attack we're going to talk about is honestly the one that you see on screen. So if you guys remember fighting Bobby Digital from the olden days in GU, where it would bring up Dragonator like spikes and then swirl them around you, and then as it's swirling them, the Dragonator spikes are actually expanding outwards. They will hit you. You cannot block these things. Okay, it's so annoying. You can't block them. You have to just dodge them. And then on the inner core is going to be a huge like ball. That, remember the electrical sphere we talked about? It shoots electrical sphere down at the ground. It charges itself at the bottom for about a couple of seconds, and then you're free to actually attack from underneath the monster itself. That's the main super. Well, one of the supers. The second super is what I like to call the blue sparkle. You may have seen, if you're watching the video, you may have seen it already happen before, but if you don't like get on top of the platforms when it does it, because usually before it actually does the blue sparkle, it'll give you some platforms to stand on. You have to do all you can to get on those platforms. The only way to survive, well, let's not get ahead of ourselves. It's the only way to not get hit by the blue sparkle. So you want to get on those platforms and not get hit by the blue sparkle, but the blue sparkle, essentially, if it touches the ground, huge explosion. It won't kill you outright, but it'll do a great amount of damage, doing about what, like 80 to 90% damage even at full health. But the cool thing about that is, if you do get knocked out, well, let's say you're gonna get hit with it, there's a plethora of endemic life in this particular cavern, and one of them is the Moxie Turtle. So you can pick up the Moxie Turtle, so that way you can actually avoid taking the fat L from a big attack. I'm literally using the Moxie Turtle in this footage, so run it. There's the Moxie Turtle. There's a lot of different elemental beetles. You know, like the mud beetle, the fire beetle, the ice beetle, and so on you can use to hit the monster with blights and so on. There's that down there too. There's vigor wasps or wisps, whatever. A lot of things down there to kind of help you out along your way. So with that said, it has all the attacks that it had from before, a couple of new ones with that are basically slight variations of what it used to be before. It has 2 new super attacks. It does a couple of things that Ibushi had, where it can like swirl up some like winds to assist in damaging you. That also pop up whenever it does lay down some platforms and so on. So for the most part, basically everything I said about Narwa transitions over to AllMother. We have to think there's a couple of new things in there, the attacks that I mentioned actually, and a few things that it took from Ibushi. Granted, since Ibushi himself doesn't have too much in and of himself, not much was taken except for, you know, the wind in certain instances. Other than that, this monster technically has like 2-ish phases. So when you're fighting it initially, and you're doing big number, a Elder Dragon will pop up. Magnamalo, Teostra, Kush. These are the ones I've all seen come out of the well to actually assist in the fighting. Now, what you're supposed to do is, you're supposed to give the other one the Ruffle Tuffles and Wyvern Ride it. You use it, Wyvern Ride it, do big numbers, smash it upside the head, do a little bit more damage, and after that it goes to quote-unquote phase 2, where it's a lot more aggressive than it was before. A couple of attacks that it wouldn't do beforehand will actually pop out now. Those attacks being anything that's essentially, that was a singular attack, that's going to be a double attack, like the double shower faucet I talked about. But mostly you have to deal with the fact that it's a lot more aggressive now. So it's going to do a lot of attacks that was kind of unfair more often than not, and kind of do it with a little bit more fever. But other than that, that's essentially what AllMother is. I mean, it's still a really good fight, all things considered. It's basically a jacked up Narwa. So if you remember fighting Narwa and you're really good at fighting Narwa, you're going to be pretty decent at fighting AllMother. AllMother just hits really hard on basically everything. Harder than what Narwa does. So that's really its biggest claim to fame. And yeah, that's AllMother. Not much else to really say about it, but we can briefly talk about the armor and such, because it's a doozy of a thing to talk about. We're gonna go through it as quick as possible, and I'm gonna not actually recommend you get the gear, but we're gonna talk about it anyway. Alright, I'm gonna try to go through this as easily as possible. This is still tough for me. Now, the one, I guess you can maybe call it a saving grace for the Narwa Ibushi double combo wombo is their armor. Now, their armor is very interesting. What you're looking at right now is the Ibushi armor. It has that many skills. And you're looking at this and you're thinking, dude, it's just a bunch of random skills with 1 point everything. And you're not wrong. You're really not wrong. We're looking at wind alignment, focus, evade extender, guard, flinch free, constitution, stamina surge, power prolonger, evade window, slugger, and guard up. Now, if I'm to look at this like for a plot lonk and really try to squeeze a set out of this, just looking at it raw, that's a charge blade set. Focus kind of helps with, you know, the files. Guard helps with guarding, of course. Evade extender for moving a bit more. Flinch free for, you know, not getting hit with the woosaw. The constitution and stamina surge is looking good for just whatever. Power prolonger, evade window, slugger for the knockout, and guard up. Now you can probably squeeze a number of things out of this, but I'm looking at like a charge blade here. You can probably do a lance with this as well, with guard, constitution, stamina surge, and guard up, and evade window and evade extender. And sure, but that's not what this is looking. This is not what you're supposed to do. All you need to look at is the wind alignment. Let's take a gander. Wind alignment. At level 5, it increases your dragon resistance by 4 and also grants you great luck. Yeah. Lame. It's lame. It's pretty bad. Like, there's no slots on any of these armor pieces either. So you're stuck with one in everybody. And what are you supposed to do with this? You're supposed to beat the game, because once you beat the game, beat AllMother, then you can upgrade this set. But before we get into that, let's actually go look at Narwa. Narwa's the same kind of bag. It's the same thing. You get a thing called Thunder Alignment, and, you know, you get a whole bunch of skills. Random morph, rapid morph, offensive guard, constitution, crit draw, guard, part breaker, artillery, evade window, and marathon runner. Honestly, I don't even know what the heck this is supposed to be, but this is what this set is. And Thunder Alignment does exactly what Ibushi did. Gives you 4 points of thunder resistance and grants you great luck, so we're not even gonna look at that. The real coup to this, well, first, let's go look at the weapons. The weapons are okay. Weapons are okay. Across the board, we're gonna look at. Let's look at, I don't know, great sword. Nope. Rise. Let's look at longsword. This is for you guys. So its long swords are pretty good. pretty good. So looking at the longsword, the Abyssal Storm Sword, this is the Narwa joint. You're looking at 1.9 with 420. Blaze it, actually just 42. 42 Thunder Element. I try to make it funny. 42 Thunder Element, and that's actually pretty solid. And then if you look at the Ibushi, you're looking at 200 attack with 13 Dragon. Now the thing to note is that the sharpness for Ibushi is going to be higher than that of Narwa. The Narwa tends to have more element, where Ibushi has, in most cases, more raw and more actual sharpness, but the element is pitiful. 13 is going to be that low across the board, where where Narwa gives you a ton more element. So honestly, as far as like end game thunder weapons go, not bad. Not bad. So its weapons, not too bad. Pretty good. Pretty solid, honestly. And the cool thing is you're going to actually want to run a particular weapon from these guys to make use of their armor set. So let's go back and look at the armor set briefly. Okay, so when you beat the game and you fight AllMother gives you some materials. AllMother itself does not actually give you any actual armor. What you're supposed to do with those materials is take the same armor sets, the Ibushi and the Narwa, and upgrade them even further. When you upgrade them even further, you get something that's known as like the Storm Soul skill. I think the Storm Soul skill is for, well, either one of them, doesn't really matter, but you get a new soul skill, if you will. What it does is it increases the level in which the skills you have by 1. Now you have to get it maxed out. If every piece of gear is fully maxed out, you get an additional bonus. So level 1 is Thunder and Dragon attack plus 5%. And it does this up until level 3, which gives you up to 15%. Then when you get to level 4, by level 4 I mean you get 4 pieces of the armor that's fully maxed out. You get 1 point to all your other skills. Alright? Then when you get it completely maxed out on all parts, all 5 pieces, you get 2 more points, okay? And it stacks with the previous bonus. So now we're looking at 3 points in everything. So if you're looking at this armor set Ibushi, you're gonna get 3 points in the focus, 3 in the evade extender, 3 in the guard, 3 in the flinch free, so on, blah 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 blah. You got it, right? Cool. Same thing with the Narwa joint. Now that's interesting. Now what's even tough, like, it sounds cool, right? Sounds cool, but you have a gang of different random abilities. You have to understand, you're not gonna get everything because, well, you need to rock all this together. And for the most part, these sets by themselves don't really make anything appealing. You're gonna rely heavily on your talisman to make sure that you can squeeze what little extra skills you kind of need to make whatever armor set you're trying to work. And on top of that, you're gonna need to really rock a Narwa or Ibushi weapon, because if you run it, you get an actual boost with that. So with the Rampage Soul skill for the Ibushi, you get plus 30 defense on top of your juice. All right, and then if you're rocking the Ibushi armor with a Narwa weapon, you instead get plus 40 affinity. It is so confusing, guys. I'm trying my absolute best, okay, to kind of run you with this and not make it as confusing as possible, but upgrading both of these armor sets to their full potential is 100% just a flex. Like, the amount of money and time and resources you're gonna spend completely maxing out all these armor sets is insane. You're not really gonna find them too viable. Like, there's gonna be, like, if you look at this right here, this one that we're looking at right here, this set has like next to no offensive skills. Everything is set up in passive stuff. So it's not going to be any better than if you were to run, like, honestly, Raw Rajang. You will have a lot of cool, interesting things to go with you, but a Raw Rajang going to kill a monster a lot quicker. It's tough, okay, guys? The skills that the armor sets will give you if you completely max everything out is pretty cool. You get all these skills, and you get so many points into them, but in my earnest opinion, it's just not worth the time and the effort it's going to take for you to actually get in there. Plus, like, the massive galaxy brain, you're going to need to actually form all this and mix them together to come up with something that's truly viable. So just take my word for it. It's cool, but it's not worth your time. There's a lot of intricacies to the armor sets, and also with the weapon that you're gonna have to run with it. So again, it's super confusing. I tried my best to kind of explain to you guys, but I just want you to understand that in my earnest opinion, the weapons all by themselves are pretty good. I would kind of run those, but the armor, I give it a pass, my guy, unless you're trying to flex. All right, with all that being said, it's a lot to go through, but let's wrap it up. Ibushi is relatively like not that big of a deal. Yo, you see the blue sparkle? That was kind of fire, was it not? But Ibushi isn't too much of a threat. Narwa's the real threat, as all females actually are. This isn't me being misogynistic and like taking a jab. It's just that like in nature, female animals, they tend to be the true issue in certain cases. Spiders, male spiders are really small, female spiders are like double, 3 times their size. You remember Celtis Queen? Literally literally tossed the male Celtis to kind of kill you. But whatever, what I'm getting at here is Ibushi wasn't nothing, Narwa was the sauce. The real fight, the real challenge, everything comes from Narwa. That's why it's the AllMother. Anyway, so they all 3 are amazing monsters. Amazing! I'm not gonna lie, amazing. The upside down dragon atrocities are pretty actually cool. So with that being said, one thing I will say this is that if you're really gonna fight these guys and grind them out for anything, I would essentially recommend you not really do it for the armor. I would do it for the weapons and use their materials to grind out decorations, because the best way to grind decorations in this game is to use Narwa, Ibushi, and AllMother parts, because they have so many points you can actually use to decorate farm with. But we're not going to get into decorations. Let's just wrap this video up. Now, Ibushi, not so much a threat. Narwa, the real threat. The Ibushi fight is going to be a fight where you just kind of... He doesn't hit you too hard, but you're going to just watch how he actually functions. He has a couple attacks, not too many attacks, but you can do enough damage to him to finish him off in the Rampage. The Rampage, you have all the cannons and the ballista and the machine guns and the limited things like getting Fugan out there, getting Yumogi out there, getting the people with the palicos and the buddies. You know them. I don't know these people, you know these people. You get those guys out there that help you out, and you can utilize all those things near you, as well as like the Dragonator and the Worm Shot to completely just smack the guy in the Rampage. Not an issue, you know what I mean? Not really an issue. You do fight him again in the AllMother fight, but it's gonna take like 3-4 minutes tops to smack him real nice and tight, and you're gonna move over and actually do the AllMother fight. Narwa is the true fight. In my opinion, Narwa is the practice fight for the AllMother fight, because all AllMother is Narwa just jacked up on like an additional couple attacks with different attacking patterns and so on, and more oomph. So Narwa is the true one to fight here. So Narwa has a absolute metric ton of different attacks and attack patterns and things like that. It still utilizes the ballista machine gun thing where it lifts them up out the air and you kind of stand on them to do additional damage to it by shooting it in the thunder stacks and so on. And AllMother is the same thing, just not as often, but gonna get your rocks off to Narwa, because Narwa is gonna be the one that's really gonna show you actually how to fight AllMother. Narwa hits pretty hard, but you can take a couple of these hits without too much worry. If anything, you're gonna really want to see and watch out for all the things that it can do, because it has a lot of attacks, guys, a lot of attacks. Watch all these attacks, learn these attacks, understand how these things work, so that way when you go to fight AllMother, you're kind of familiar with some of it. Granted, it will be a couple of changes in there, like I said before, but for the most part, you're gonna be just fine. Whew. With that being said, everyone, it has been your boy Dak908, aka the Dick Dug himself. I am tired. Guys, I am tired. I am tired. I essentially made 10 videos in one day. Insane. This is the most I've ever done, ever. I made the, okay, for those, this is the end of the video. And for those who've watched carefully, you notice I uploaded a metric ton of videos today. 7 different videos where I combined 3 videos into one with this one video, which is in theory, in some suspicion cases, 10 videos in one day. I try to completely knock out the entire monster list for this game. The only monster I'm missing is Delta Airlines, aka, I still cannot remember his actual name, but we're missing Delta Airlines, aka American Airlines, aka Jet Dragon, you know, whatever. But I have to be HR 100, and I'm not. I'm only HR 108. Or 181. I'm only HR 81. So if anyone wants to kind of wants to hunt with me to get me up to 100, that way we can do the Jet Dragon monster fight, you gotta join the Discord server. So the Discord is gonna be in the description. Link for that's gonna be in the description. The amino segment for Monster Hunter. I can't stress this enough. Amino Apps Monster Hunter is gonna be in the description as well. Join there. Follow the people in there. Have fun. It's so freaking cool. It's like the best thing for Monster Hunter ever. It's not as toxic as the Twitter community, and it's not as toxic as the Twitch or even the YouTube community. It's very wholesome stuff. Everyone's cool, everyone's friends, showing off OCs, fan art, so on, etc. Just join the stuff. I'ma be there. We could hook up. But speaking of toxic communities, Twitter. Follow me on Twitter because I'm on Twitter and I be doing my own thug dizzle. I want more Twitter followers. I'm not gonna lie to you, I kind of do. But with that said, guys, it's been your boy. Thank you so much for watching these videos. I can't thank you all enough. We're almost done with all the Monster Hunter stuff, and when we're done with the Monster Hunter stuff, I don't know what I'm gonna do next.